In the dim light of the witch's lair, the air crackled with trepidation as Ricciarella stared into Strega Iacoma's piercing eyes, her heart a battlefield of desperation and doubt. "Do you truly wish to reclaim what is yours?" the witch taunted, revealing the dark price of love she would demand. Time twisted as Ricciarella grasped the ancient dagger, knowing that with every drop of her blood, she risked unleashing forces beyond her control. But as she prepared to bind her husband's heart, a chilling question lingered in the air: could love forged in darkness truly survive? This was just the beginning of the plan. Before we get to the full story, take a moment to subscribe and comment where you're from. In the heart of Offida, a picturesque town nestled in the Marche region of Italy, shadows crept into the life of Ricciarella. She walked along the cobblestone streets, her heels tapping in a rhythm that echoed the emotional turmoil within her. With each step, her heart felt heavier, as if carrying an invisible burden that threatened to crush her spirit. Her marriage, once filled with laughter and dreams of a shared future, had transformed into an endless swell of despair. The warmth of affection had faded, replaced by the icy grip of misunderstanding and resentment. Ricciarella's husband, a man of pride and ambition, seemed to have lost sight of their vows. The spark in their conversations dwindled, and nights that once embraced gentle whispers were now marred by silence. As she passed the old stone church, the bells told a haunting melody. Each chime resonated in her chest, a reminder of her waning faith. Deadlines loomed over her, both at home and within herself. Stricken by the desperation of her situation, questions spiraled in her mind like a tempest. How had their love, once sacred, become so tainted? What had she done to warrant this relentless heartache? Ricciarella made her way towards the local market, her mind missing the vibrancy of life around her. She picked up vegetables mechanically, her gaze distant. There was a flicker of memory that made her pause, a vision of better days spent laughing with her children, her husband's arms wrapped around them in joyous unity. Such moments now felt like delicate dust, slipping through her fingers, leaving nothing but emptiness behind. Among the stalls, her eyes were drawn to a group of women gathered in hushed whispers. Their demeanor was unsettling. There were no friendly smiles, only furtive glances exchanged. As Ricciarella approached, she caught wind of their conversation, punctuated by the words of the legendary Strega Iacoma. Rumored to possess dark powers, she was said to help those desperate enough to barter their morals for relief. An idea began to take hold of Ricciarella, like a rogue vine winding around her heart, choking her judgment. It was the kind of thought that made her skin crawl, yet it pulsed with a dangerous allure. Could she truly be so desperate as to seek the aid of a witch? As she weighed her options, she could feel the tension building in her chest, a block of ice where faith used to reside. Hours passed, yet the echo of Strega Iacoma's name lingered. Ricciarella stood at her kitchen sink that evening, the dishes untouched, her mind replaying the stories from the market. She longed for a way to end her suffering, to resurrect the love she once shared. Maybe, just maybe, this was her last chance, an illicit compromise to salvage her crumbling life. That night, sleep eluded her. She tossed and turned, guilt gnawing at her conscience, while the thought of Iacoma's power whispered temptingly in her ears. What she might gain came with a dark, bitter cost. She sought help from the witch, but fought against the instinct to recoil from the darkness that loomed. Ricciarella could taste the inevitability of her decision. Morning dawned with a heavy fog, a shroud of uncertainty lingering over her choices. She dressed in anonymity, an unremarkable figure hidden beneath a dark cloak. As she stepped into the merciless light, a sense of unease washed over her. Was this truly the path she wanted to tread? The witch's house was on the outskirts of town, nestled between gnarled trees as if the forest itself shielded its wicked secrets. Ricciarella's heart raced, almost breaking from the anticipation of what she was about to do. She hesitated at the door, a momentary flicker of doubt creeping in, but the weight of her marital despair promised her easier days, a false promise that urged her onward. With a trembling hand, she knocked on the door. The sound echoed hollowly, merging with the rustle of leaves. Almost instantly, the door creaked ajar, revealing a shadowy figure wrapped in mystery. Strega Iacoma's eyes sparkled with an otherworldly light, a knowing smile playing on her lips. The air thrummed with an unsettling energy that ricocheted between them, igniting Ricciarella's fear and longing. "Welcome, dear," Iacoma's voice danced like a cold wind through the room. "I've been expecting you." The walls of the witch's lair were adorned with artifacts of the occult, symbols etched in wood, jars filled with strange contents, and an aroma that was both enchanting and suffocating. Ricciarella felt the weight of her choice pressing down, but she was too far gone to turn back. This was her moment of reckoning, the point of no return, as she ventured deeper into a darkness she barely understood. Unseen forces gathered outside, a community blissfully unaware of the treachery about to unfurl. Within the confines of that eerie dwelling, Ricciarella took a step into oblivion, a decision fueled by desperation that would change the course of everything. As she stood before the witch, a tangible tension filled the air, the darkness of her despair intertwining with the unfathomable unknown. As Iacoma's eyes gleamed with a predatory curiosity, Ricciarella felt as if she was standing on the edge of an abyss. "You've come to me for help, yet your heart is tangled in doubt," Iacoma observed, her voice flowing like poisoned honey. "Do you truly wish to reclaim what is yours?" "Yes," Ricciarella breathed, barely able to control the tremor in her voice, "but at what cost?" "Ah, that is the question, isn't it?" Strega Iacoma moved closer, her silhouette flickering in the candlelight like a specter. "To wield power is to pay a price, to dance in the shadows of morality while seeking light. What you want can be attained, but only if you are willing to embrace the darkness." Ricciarella's heart surged with a mix of trepidation and resolve. "I'm ready," she replied, though her voice wavered, betraying her inner turmoil. Iacoma pulled an old leather-bound tome from the depths of her cluttered shelf, its cover embossed with strange symbols. She placed it on the table, gesturing for Ricciarella to examine it. The pages were yellowed, filled with cryptic writings and eerie illustrations depicting rituals that sent shivers down Ricciarella's spine. "Here lies the power to bind," Iacoma explained, flipping through the pages with a flick of her fingers. "You will finesse the energies around you, entwining them with your desires. With this consecrated host, you will seal your intent. But once you step into this realm of sorcery, there is no turning back. The love you seek must be earned through sacrifice." Ricciarella's stomach nodded. She had come searching for hope but found herself face to face with ancient rituals and dark promises. Yet the desire to revive her husband's affection eclipsed her hesitation. She stepped closer to the table, her resolve hardening. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her voice firm now. Strega Iacoma smiled, revealing a hint of sharp teeth. "First, you must procure the elements required for the ritual: the blood, the binding herbs, the host." She began gathering items, placing them in front of Ricciarella one by one. "Each component plays its role, each symbolizes the sacrifice you make for love." Among the items was a small vial filled with dark liquid, which Iacoma explained was a rare herb known to deepen emotions and seal bonds. "You must recite the incantation alongside your life cycle, invoking your love's spirit," Iacoma instructed, her tone grave and commanding. Ricciarella's chest tightened as she thought of her husband, their life spiraling apart. Could these dark arts truly mend their shattered love? A desperate hope surged within her, almost drowning out the warning bells in her mind. They prepared the space, a muted chant of ancient words vibrating through the room. The air thickened with the scent of herbs and incense, swirling in a ritualistic dance that entranced and terrified Ricciarella simultaneously. As Iacoma positioned the host in the center of the table, she carved a line through its center with a silver dagger. "You must pour your heart's desire into the host," she instructed. "What you envision must flow with the blood, intertwining them forever." Ricciarella nodded, her breath hitching in her throat as she knew what would follow. "And once I do this, what happens?" The witch leaned in closer, her demeanor shifting to one of ominous authority. "Love will bind your husband to you, but remember, desires are fickle. You must wield this power wisely. There are forces at play that you cannot fathom." Ricciarella's hands shook as she approached the dagger, a maelstrom of emotions rushing through her. Her heart ached for the happy memories with her husband, but the pain of their current separation weighed heavily on her. Summoning her thoughts, she focused on the love that had once blossomed between them. "I desire him to love me as he did before," she proclaimed, a mixture of fear and determination in her voice. "I want our family back." With trembling fingers, she lifted the dagger, her heart pounding as she pressed the blade against the host once more. Her blood, mingling with the sacred, flooded the air with an energy that pulsed with urgency. The witch's incantations swirled around her like a maelstrom, and Ricciarella felt the power coursing through her veins, a heady elixir of despair and hope. The host responded, glowing brighter as color seeped from it, spiraling around their joined hands like ribbons of energy. Iacoma's laughter danced in the air, a sinister undercurrent to the ritual that ignited both fear and exhilaration within Ricciarella. But as the spell climaxed, shadows of doubt clawed at her heart. Would this truly bring her husband back? Would it mend the broken strands of their lives, or would the darkness consume them both? The air crackled with raw energy like the moment before a violent storm. "Let your voice soar, Ricciarella," Iacoma urged, her eyes glinting with malicious anticipation. "Invoke the essence of your love, whisper it to the winds." Ricciarella closed her eyes tightly, an innocent plea escaping her lips as her voice grew stronger, each word laced with determination. "Let love find its way back, let him remember the laughter, the joy, bind our hearts in fidelity and warmth." As the chant resonated into the air, Ricciarella felt a surge of energy erupt from the host, enveloping her in a blinding light. It was intoxicating, a rush of hope that urged her forward. But alongside this surge came a creeping sensation of foreboding, like fingers of ice tracing her spine. Then, in a split second, the light receded, leaving the room in silence. The shadows writhed, dark tendrils creeping around Ricciarella. "What just happened?" she gasped, her heart racing at the sudden stillness that enveloped them. "Patience, dear," Iacoma replied, a predatory smile curling on her lips. "The pact has been made, you have awakened forces both benevolent and malevolent. Now you must prepare for the consequences, my dear. What you have desired has begun to unfold." With each word, Ricciarella felt the weight of her decision, an anchor pulling her down into treacherous waters. Was she prepared for the reality of what she had unleashed? The stakes of her longing unfurled before her, intertwining with the fate of her soul. Her heart raced as realizations dawned on her. The battle for her husband's love had taken a dark turn, and she stood teetering on the precipice of her own desires. Darkness loomed as she ventured deeper into a path less traveled, one obscured by the shadows of her choices. The ground felt shaky beneath her feet, the remnants of the ritual heavy in the air, acting as a reminder that the chaos of her desperation had intertwined with fate. In this moment of reckoning, Ricciarella understood one truth all too clearly: to summon love often comes at the cost of one's own light. The shadows whispered around Ricciarella, tendrils of darkness curling like smoke, teasing at her resolve. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding erratically, the weight of glancing into the abyss pressing heavily upon her. Iacoma stood watching, her smile both taunting and enticing, a specter of wicked potential that now clung to Ricciarella like a shroud. "Now begins the real challenge," the witch instructed, her voice slipping through the dark tendrils. "Your husband's heart may be yours to command, but remember, every thread of love is woven with sincerity. When it is tainted with manipulation, it can turn and tear." Ricciarella's stomach churned at the implication. She had committed an act of deceit, and now she had to deal with the fallout. "What can I do?" "Only you can confront him, meld the threads of your intentions into truth. Seek out Carlo and show him how you are willing to sacrifice for love," Iacoma decreed. "But know this, he will sense the shadows lurking. You must make your plea with both utmost clarity and unyielding heart." "What if I fail?" Ricciarella asked, fear edging into her voice. "What if he cannot forgive me?" "Then you'll have unleashed darkness without recourse, and the shadows will claim what they desire," Iacoma replied ominously, the smile fading from her lips. "Time is not on your side. The longer you wait, the deeper the darkness settles." Ricciarella nodded, determination hardening her resolve. Iacoma's wicked influence had seeped into every corner of her mind, yet her longing for Carlo outweighed the fear. She would not cower in shadows, she would fight for their love. With a fierce steadiness, Ricciarella stepped out of the witch's lair, the air outside heavy with the scent of rain. The clouds overhead mirrored her turmoil, thick and dark, threatening to spill over. She drew in the crisp, cool air, forcing herself to focus. She needed to find Carlo, to show him that her heart remained true despite the darkness she had once invited. As she navigated the winding streets of Offida, memories clung to each corner. She saw the cafe where they shared laughter over espresso, the park where they took their children for picnics, the church where they had promised to love one another until the end. Each moment washed over her like waves of nostalgia, but carried with them the sharp sting of regret. Reaching their home, Ricciarella hesitated at the door. The familiar structure felt foreign now, weighed down with the silence that filled their lives. She steeled herself, her knuckles brushing against the wood of the entryway. With a deep breath, she pushed the door open. Inside, the darkness of the home swallowed her whole, and she felt the absence of love like a palpable force. She walked through the living room, trembling at the mundane sight: disheveled cushions, toys scattered on the floor, remnants of what they had once shared. "Carlo," she called out hesitantly. Silence echoed in response. Heart racing, she made her way to the kitchen, the coldness of the tiles matching the chill in the air. She searched for any sign of him, but the house felt empty, vacant like her heart. "We need to talk," she shouted, desperate for a response. "Please just give me a sign." Ricciarella fell silent, anxiety bubbling within her. Just then, a noise from the back bedroom made her spin around. The sound of soft whimpering grew louder, and she moved toward it, drawn by the anguish that scraped at her soul. Pushing the door open, she found Carlo sitting on the side of the bed, his head in his hands, shoulders heaving as he wept. Time slowed in that moment. The sight of her husband brought forth a tide of emotions. She rushed to him, kneeling beside him, her heart breaking. "Carlo," she whispered, reaching for him, "I'm so sorry. I didn't want it to end like this." He lifted his head, his eyes red and bloodshot. The pain reflected in his gaze cut through her like glass, sharper than any blade. "Why, Ricciarella, why would you seek to bind me with something so dark?" Her heart sank, guilt choking her words. "I was desperate, lost in my pain. I thought," she faltered, searching for the right words, the right explanation, "I thought it would bring you back to me, that it would mend us." Carlo's expression shifted, pain mingling with confusion and hurt. "To manipulate love like that, do you not see how hollow it feels? It's everything I feared. Our marriage was built on trust, and I feel that slip away." "No," she insisted, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I didn't understand. I thought I could summon it back, but I've realized that love cannot be coerced. I was wrong. The darkness I entered has threatened everything that we built." He looked away, a flicker of hurt etched into his features, making her heart lurch. "I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't know if I can forgive this." She swallowed heavily, her heart racing against her ribcage. "Please," she gasped, grasping his hands in hers. "Give me another chance. If you only let me show you the love we've shared, I promise I'll do whatever it takes to prove my sincerity." "Words are easy," Carlo replied, voice low, heartbreak clear. "You've already shown how far you'll go without considering the risks. I don't want shadowy pledges. I want to feel the light of love, not its toxicity." Every rejection felt like a knife twisting in her heart. She took a step back, her breath quickening. In that moment, the shadows she had conjured whispered to her, snaking around her thoughts. "I have to fight for you," she said fiercely, determination igniting. "I refuse to lose you again." "Then prove it," he answered, his voice cold yet laced with a hint of longing. "Show me the love that's neither shadowy nor frail. If you seek my heart, you have to confront the darkness inside you." Ricciarella nodded, instinct kicking in. She would not let him down again. "I will face it," she vowed, her voice steady. "I'll find a way to break the darkness I've invited. I will make it right, no matter the cost." With his gaze piercing into her, she could see the flicker of hope glimmering behind his pain. She knew the path forward wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to reclaim the light both for herself and for Carlo. As she stepped back, Ricciarella felt the pull of both love and darkness intertwining with her existence. Shadows loomed beyond the door, but they no longer frightened her. Now, empowered by love's clarity, she knew she would face whatever awaited her in the embrace of the darkness. Together then, she declared with fierce conviction, promising herself, Carlo, and the fate of their love that she would fight for the love they had forged. "I'll return, and I won't be returning empty-handed." With a firm step forward, Ricciarella breathed deeply, ready to confront the shadows once and for all, determined to forge the legacy of their love anew. The journey ahead would be fraught with perils, but she would embrace the challenge, driven by an unwavering spirit and the love that was worth the fight. Ricciarella stepped back into the sunlight, the air outside breathing life back into her determination as she made her way confidently down the cobblestone streets of Offida. More than just a scenic town now, it was a tapestry of memories woven with the love she yearned to reclaim. Each step further solidified her intent to confront the darkness she had conjured, not just for her sake, but for Carlo and the family they had built together. The sun blazed down, casting sharp shadows that danced around her, but she felt no fear. Instead, she was invigorated, ready to defy the echoes of doubt lingering in her mind. The past whispered its relentless reminders of mistakes made, but Ricciarella intended to silence those whispers with renewed clarity and purpose. Her thoughts raced as she made her way to her local church, a place of solace and purity that had always been a cornerstone of her faith. She remembered how Carlo had often held her hand while they prayed, their bond growing stronger with each whispered prayer. The prospect of standing before the altar again filled her with hope, a hope that she could mend the fabric of their lives together. Upon reaching the church, she pushed the heavy wooden door open, the familiar scent of incense and polished wood enveloping her. Inside, the sanctuary was bathed in a soft glow, stained glass windows streaming colored light across the stone floor. Ricciarella felt the weight of history all around her, of families who had sought guidance and healing beneath this very roof. She made her way to the altar, her mind racing to find the right words. The flickering candles lined the path like guiding stars. Each flame represented a prayer, some fulfilled, others still drifting in the ether, waiting for answers. "Lord," she whispered, taking a knee before the altar, her fingers entwined. "I come before you today not just with my fears but with a resolve to heal the wounds of my heart. I have ventured into darkness and I recognize the weight of my choices." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she poured out her soul. "I seek not only forgiveness but also guidance to find strength in love, to bring back the light that was lost. Help me reunite the scattered pieces of my family, restore the love that once thrived." As if her words had stirred a response, she felt a wave of calm wash over her, cleansing the sorrow lodged deep within her heart. The air grew thick with a palpable energy, almost as if the divine were listening, wrapping her in warmth and reassurance. With her heart uncovered and earnest intentions laid bare, Ricciarella started to visualize Carlo's smile, thinking back to the laughter they had shared. The times spent with their children were vivid in her memory. Each image filled her with strength, fortifying the bond she desperately wished to revive. As she rose from her moment of prayer, she took a few deep breaths, her spirit ignited with purpose. She would approach Carlo not with desperation but with sincerity, ready to confront the strains that had pulled them apart. The journey to return home became a pilgrimage, one steeped in love and intention. She knew that words would not suffice, it was her actions that would have to prove her commitment to rebuilding their life together. Arriving back at the house, Ricciarella hesitated at the door. The familiar structure felt foreign now, weighed down with the silence that filled their lives. She steeled herself, her knuckles brushing against the wood of the entryway. With a deep breath, she pushed the door open. Inside, the darkness of the home swallowed her whole, and she felt the absence of love like a palpable force. She walked through the living room, trembling at the mundane sight, disheveled cushions, toys scattered on the floor, remnants of what they had once shared. "Carlo," she called out, her voice steady but gentle. He emerged from the living room, looking weary but alert. The lines on his face hinted at a worry that hadn't dissipated since that fateful night. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Ricciarella felt the weight of everything that lay between them. "I'm here," she said softly, closing the distance between them. "I've confronted the shadows I invited, and I've come to you with sincerity." Carlo's expression remained guarded, but there was an awareness that sparked in his eyes, a flicker of the love they once shared. "What do you mean?" "I faced the darkness that weighed heavy on my heart. I made a terrible choice, one that was born out of fear and desperation," she began, her voice trembling but steady. "But I realized that true love isn't forced or manipulated. It's a choice made every day, and I want to choose you again." "Ricciarella," he started, but she felt the need to share more, to keep the walls from rebuilding. "I want to be vulnerable, to show you I'm willing to confront not only the mistakes I made but also the paths that led us here," she said, her tone earnest. "I will not shy away from the darkness again, I will instead embrace the light of love." He looked at her with an intensity that made her heart race. "How can I trust that this time it will be different?" "Because I'm choosing to face everything honestly," Ricciarella implored. "I've leaned on shadows and now I know the cost. I refuse to allow our love to be tainted by fear and manipulation. I'll fight for you, for us." She stepped closer, reaching out to clasp his hand. "If love is a journey, then let's walk it together, no shadows between us. I will build our love back up, stone by stone." His gaze softened, the tension in his shoulders easing as he interlaced his fingers with hers. "It's going to take time," Carlo replied, eyes glistening with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "But I want to believe in us again, I want that." Ricciarella's heart swelled, a mixture of hope and fear intermingling in her chest. Then let's take that time. I know I have a lot to prove, but I'm willing to start with what matters most: our connection, our trust. The moment wrapped around them like a warm embrace. You're the light I've missed, Carlo admitted slowly, steeling himself against vulnerability. With their hands clasped, they marveled at the intimacy of this connection, this willingness to rebuild what had been cracked by the shadows. At that moment, Ricciarella felt safe again, knowing they would face whatever awaited them, armed with love and the light it compelled. Together we can navigate through anything, she vowed, her spirit soaring as love rekindled within her. With a firm grip on her future, Ricciarella prepared to confront the patterns that had threatened their love. They would work side by side, embracing every joy and every challenge as they ventured forth, a united front against the shadows of the past, ready to carve a new path together. Let's do this together then, Carlo whispered as they stood united, the bond between them more radiant than it had ever been. In that moment, Ricciarella realized her journey had just begun, but with the strength of their love at her side, she felt empowered to conquer whatever came next. The journey might be fraught with perils, but every bit of it would be undertaken with intention and heart. Ricciarella knew they could forge the legacy of their love anew, illuminated by hope, clarity, and a commitment that was unyielding. Hand in hand, they stepped into the light of a new day, ready to face the world together, fully embracing the love that had endured through the darkness. The days that followed blossomed with a renewed energy, each morning filled with promise as Ricciarella and Carlo navigated the delicate terrain of their restored love. They established routines rooted in intention. Mornings began with shared coffee, hands brushing over one another in passing, and evenings filled with laughter over home-cooked meals. They exchanged daily affirmations, a ritual that grounded them as they blossomed together. One afternoon, while the sun cast golden rays across their backyard, Ricciarella found herself reflecting on their journey thus far. She leaned against the olive tree that had become a cherished symbol of their commitment. The tree thrived with each passing day, its branches reaching towards the sky as if embracing life itself. Carlo joined her, wiping the sweat from his brow after watering the garden. "It's amazing how much life has come back, isn't it?" he remarked, observing the structure of their small sanctuary now brimming with colorful blooms and thriving plants. "Just like us," Ricciarella replied with a smile. "Every moment we nurture our love, we cultivate something beautiful." He nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about the shadows we faced. It's important to acknowledge them, to understand how they shaped us, but we can't let them define our future." Ricciarella let his words settle into her heart. "You're right, we've both faced our fears, but moving forward means confronting those darker moments without letting them haunt us. If we keep our hearts open, we can forge a stronger bond." Their discussions often led them down paths of introspection, and Carlo began to reveal the layers of his own struggles. "Sometimes I still feel echoes of doubt," he confessed, his voice low. "What if I fail to be who you need me to be?" "That's a risk we'll face," Ricciarella exclaimed, placing a reassuring hand on his. "Our love is a dance of trust and vulnerability, and it requires both of us to lean into each other, not away." Carlo met her gaze, his eyes softening. "I want to lean in, but it's hard." "Then let's make it easier together," Ricciarella urged, her voice steady. "Setting up goals, having open conversations, these practices will help us navigate the shadows together. We can be the light for each other." With shared resolve, they envisioned ways to strengthen their connection, incorporating evening walks under the stars, the lighting of their symbolic candle, and monthly check-ins, discussing not only their hopes but also the distressing shadows that threatened to creep back into their lives. As their love flourished, they took a weekend trip together, leaving behind the worries that may have clung to their everyday lives. They drove to a nearby lake, a tranquil spot surrounded by towering mountains and lush greenery, the perfect backdrop for rediscovering their connection. Arriving at the lake, Ricciarella felt a rush of exhilaration. The air was crisp, carrying the scents of pine and fresh water. They set up a cozy picnic under the shade of an oak tree, the soothing sound of lapping water creating a serene symphony around them. "This is beautiful," Carlo said, looking around as if drinking in every detail. "Just being here with you, it feels freeing." She smiled, feeling lightness settle in her chest. It's a chance for us to reconnect with nature and with each other. As they enjoyed their lunch, laughter and conversation flowed freely, strengthening the bond between them. They shared dreams and aspirations, talking about the future in a way that felt hopeful rather than wrought with fear. "We should make these getaways a regular thing," Carlo suggested, his enthusiasm palpable. "No matter how busy life gets, we need to prioritize our time together." "Yes, our love deserves to be celebrated," Ricciarella agreed, her heart warmed by the simple joys of companionship. "We can explore new places and create memories that will help us shine brighter." After lunch, they strolled along the lakeshore hand in hand. The sunlight shimmered on the water, casting reflections like diamonds. Ricciarella picked up a smooth stone, admiring its beauty. "Look, just like our love, each moment shaped us into something more beautiful." "What are we going to do with this stone?" Carlo teased, raising an eyebrow. With a playful grin, she tossed it into the water, watching as it skipped across the surface, creating ripples that spread outward. "Letting go of the past and sending away any lingering doubts. It's a fresh start." Carlo laughed, matching her playful spirit, and picked up a stone of his own. "All right then, here's to new beginnings." He threw his stone into the lake, the splash sending ripples across the surface. "Together we are stronger and together we are free," Ricciarella declared, feeling a sense of victory wash over them. As the day unfolded, they lounged on the shore, taking turns sharing their dreams for the future. Dreams of a home filled with laughter, a family woven in love, and adventures full of shared joys. Each word solidified their commitment to one another, heralding their renewal. As evening descended and the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they stood on the edge of the water, watching as stars began to twinkle above. "Look at how many stars there are," Carlo marveled, pulling Ricciarella close. "It reminds me of the love I have for you, it's infinite and ever-present." Ricciarella melted against him, feeling the warmth of his affection wrap around her heart. "And just like the stars, our love will continue to shine bright through the darkest nights," she whispered. Carlo turned to her, sincerity etched on his face. "No matter the challenges that come, I know we'll face them together, side by side. We're in this together always." With the stars overhead and the shimmering water before them, they embraced the night, standing together in the stillness, tethered to each other and ready to journey forward. They knew the challenges ahead, including temptations from the darkness, but for the first time in a long while, they felt equipped. In that serene moment, Ricciarella looked up at Carlo, the truth of their love glowing resplendently within her heart. They had weathered storms, wrestled with shadows, and emerged victorious. Together, they were powerful, unwavering, and ready to transform every challenge into an opportunity for growth and connection. Hand in hand, they turned back toward their temporary home, hearts intertwined, determined to make each precious moment count in this new chapter of their lives, a chapter where love flourished unencumbered, basking only in the light of unwavering trust and commitment. As the first light of dawn crept into the horizon, Ricciarella stirred awake, a sense of warmth and hope wrapping around her like a cherished blanket. She glanced at Carlo beside her, his peaceful slumber a mirror of the calm that enveloped her heart. The night had been filled with whispered dreams and shared laughter, each moment reinforcing the bridge they were rebuilding over the gap forged by shadows. Carefully, she slipped out of bed, careful not to disturb him. The morning air was crisp as she stepped outside, filling her lungs with the refreshing scent of the earth awakening. Their olive tree stood firm in the garden, its branches gently swaying, an emblem of everything they had worked so hard to nurture. She made her way to it, running her fingertips over its rough bark, letting thoughts of love and resilience flow through her. Today would mark a new beginning, another chance to plant seeds of joy and gratitude into their lives. As she gathered her thoughts, she envisioned ways to express her love, to confirm the vibrant connection they had rekindled. Ideas blossomed within her, perhaps a small gesture, a sweet surprise, or even a tribute to their shared experiences. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden light across the landscape, Ricciarella returned to the cabin, the excitement bubbling within her. She found Carlo still asleep, his face relaxed, peaceful. She leaned down, placing a soft kiss on his forehead. "Good morning, sleepyhead," she whispered, feeling her heart swell at the sight of him. He opened his eyes, blinking against the light. Morning, he replied, a smile creeping across his lips. What's brewing in that beautiful mind of yours? I was thinking about starting our day with something special. She grinned, unable to hold back her enthusiasm. What do you think about breakfast in the garden? I want it to feel like a celebration of us. I love it, a great way to honor our morning, Carlo agreed, sitting up and running a hand through his hair. Together, they prepared breakfast, laughter punctuating their efforts as they moved seamlessly together in the small kitchen. The coffee brewed, the scent wafting through the air, they plated fresh fruits and pastries from the local market, infusing the morning with potential and affection. Outside in the garden, they laid a picnic blanket under the embracing arms of their olive tree. The lush grass contrasted beautifully with the soft, vibrant colors of the blanket. As they settled down, Carlo's admiration radiated toward Ricciarella. You've truly thought of everything, he remarked as he took in the scene they had created. This is perfect. Their breakfast began as a joyful exchange, each bite a reminder of how far they had come. Between bites of fruit and sips of coffee, they took moments to absorb their surroundings. The sounds of birds chirping and leaves rustling added a gentle soundtrack to their intimate gathering. I was thinking, Ricciarella began, a serious note edging into her voice. We should think about how we can continue to strengthen our relationship. We're in a good place right now, but I want to ensure we keep moving forward even if tough times impose. Carlo nodded, a contemplative expression on his face. I agree, it's essential we don't take our love for granted. How do you envision that? I think we should create a ritual, something simple but meaningful that reminds us to celebrate our commitment. Perhaps every week we can reflect on our growth, share our wants and needs, and even take time to list what we appreciate about each other. I like that, Carlo replied enthusiastically. A check-in ritual, it will act like a compass guiding us forward, ensuring we're always navigating towards each other. Feeling emboldened, Ricciarella continued, and we can incorporate special traditions like that toast we made at the lake, or even kicking off every month by lighting a candle in the garden, reminding ourselves of our vow to face the darkness together. Absolutely, Carlo affirmed, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Every month will remind us not to take each other for granted. The little things truly build towards something beautiful. With that thought, they finalized their commitment to create a monthly connection ritual. Ricciarella felt electric, knowing this would wrap them in a reassurance that their love would never again fall prey to shadows. Then their conversation shifted to future aspirations, deciding to take dance classes together to explore new hobbies and even pursue some overdue adventures. Each line they shared built a vision of laughter echoing within the walls of their future home. I can imagine our kids running around, laughing while we teach them to dance, Ricciarella said with a smile, picturing the sweet chaos of family life. Only if we promise to have patience, especially when I step on their toes, Carlo teased, sending them both into fits of laughter. As they wrapped up breakfast, a comfortable silence settled between them, filled with unspoken promises and hopes for their life ahead. Sunlight poured through the leaves overhead, casting playful shadows around them. It was a further testament to their commitment, a day marked by connection, love, and an unwavering resolve to embrace whatever lay ahead. Ricciarella took a deep breath, her vision clear. They had the strength to build a legacy woven in love, illuminated by their shared journey. With joy blooming in her heart, she glanced over at Carlo, feeling enveloped in the magic of their shared path. Together, they would write the next chapters of their lives, hand in hand and heart to heart. What did you think of this story? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Click the video on the left to hear another story.